Welcome to Let's Be Well Together podcast. We're your wellness check-in team. We talk about different categories of wellness and seeking balance between them. There's overview info on our website, letsbewelltogether.com.
This is episode 49.
We hope our territorial acknowledgement improves allyship with Indigenous people within a reconciliation process. We're on the Haldeman Tract, located on the traditional territories of the Neutral, Anishinaabe, and Haudenosaunee peoples. We acknowledge the presence and traditional knowledge, laws, and philosophies of the Indigenous people with whom we share this land. We are on Let's Be Well Together podcast, and it's John and Sammy. Hey, Sammy.
Hey.
A while back, we did a social media post about things I'm still learning. And it's always fun doing these conversations with you because you always come up with stuff I never think of. Like, so this one, for people who remember, I said, hey, what do you think about this post? And Sammy said, I love the fact that it's cactus.
Yeah.
Cacti. And you talked about why you thought that was neat. And it's something I never even noticed, let alone found interesting. But as soon as you started talking about it, I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, it's funny how I think because I work in social media as well, like I pick up on those little things that I feel like were probably purposeful. And I think just to explain for anybody who wasn't there listening to our first episode or one of our first episodes, I said it's interesting because the post is about learning and it's not like your regular flowers, it's cactus, which not everybody thinks is beautiful. And sometimes learning is not beautiful. And we're all a little bit prickly and a little bit different. And yeah, I thought that was a really cool take on what they put there.
I'm glad you brought that up. Just for completeness, it was on an Instagram page for what.is.mental illness. The last time we talked about the first two, and then now I'd like to talk about a couple more. So let's just go through and read each one, Sammy.
Sure. Yeah. So the first one that we spoke about was being patient with myself.
The second is setting boundaries.
And then we have asking for help when needed.
And the fourth thing that I'm still learning is accepting myself the way I am.
And taking care of myself.
And lastly, showing myself compassion. Yeah, boy, there's a lot of learning going on. And I'm an old guy and I'm still learning this stuff. So for all you young people out there, don't expect to be done this very soon.
For sure.
So which one are you thinking of right now?
I think all of them are so good to always be thinking of. One that stands out to me out of the last four would be asking for help when needed. I think, at least this was my experience kind of growing up as a kid and like within our society, like asking for help is kind of like seen as a weakness and you shouldn't need to ask for help. And I think specifically maybe as a female, like I think I've kind of talked about this in prior sessions and stuff. When you put up your hand and you're asking for help, you're kind of just seen as needy, I don't know, like over eccentric or like you need attention. Like that's kind of like what people would put on for females, I think, growing up for me, from my experience. It was, oh, like, why are you being so obnoxious or whatever? Like you're asking for help. Like I have a question and it just isn't seen as something that you should do. So then growing up, I started being like, no, I just need to figure it out on my own. But then when you finally ask for help, it maybe like calms you down in the situation and you're able to approach the problem or whatever you're doing in a different aspect.
Part of what I think I'm hearing you saying is that you've considered while you're been growing up that asking for help is a sign of weakness. Like that's what you've been kind of ingrained to think.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this just to kind of push you a little bit. If I said to you, hey, Sammy, I need help. So I, John, need help from you.
Right.
Do you see that as a sign of weakness in me?
No, not at all.
Have you ever seen that?
No.
Right.
Definitely not. And I love helping others. That's the thing. So like, I love helping others. I just like feel like I'm putting other people out. I don't want to like make them uncomfortable if I'm asking for help. And, I have to stay in my little box. And that's not the case.
The reason I asked that question is because when you were talking, it reminded me of our interview of Michael Herman, who he's a lawyer who suffered from depression. And among other things, he talked about stigma. And more focused was self-stigma. yes, definitely in this world, people stigmatize people with mental health issues. But what his point was, and he went through what some of those stigmas were, but his point was for himself, when he was going through a problem, he was very good at not stigmatizing other people.
Right.
But he was also very good at stigmatizing himself. And he was his own worst critic in a way. And that's what he reminded me of. The trouble I'm having right now is that I'm exactly like what you said. To this day, I don't like asking anyone for help.
Yeah.
Doing this podcast has been good because I have to ask for help. But when it comes to anything personal, I really don't like asking for help. And I feel like it's a weakness. And also, I feel like I have to let people in.
Yeah.
When I don't want to.
It's like a time you have to be vulnerable.
Exactly. And I hate the feeling of being vulnerable. You know, especially as a litigation lawyer, I'm supposed to be tough as nails and always going for the jugular, right? I'm being a little facetious there, but that's partially true, right? So how can you be vulnerable?
Yeah, how can you be vulnerable? And I think others also appreciate being asked for help sometimes, like similar to like what we've spoken about before. If you are asked for help and you don't have the space to help someone, like that has to be more of a conversation with that person, and maybe being like, maybe tomorrow or maybe in a couple of hours, I can like come back to this, but I don't have like the mental capacity to focus on it. But I know like I love being asked to help people. So I think if that's how we're thinking, if we're thinking like other people think the same way we do when it comes to that, and I think people like to feel needed, and that I think also, especially parents, as their kids get older, I don't know, you can probably speak better on this, but I feel like my parents like it still when I come to them with a problem or ask them for help, because it's like a way of showing that I still need them and I still respect their opinion and need their help and stuff. So I don't know, you can probably speak a little bit better on that because you are a parent.
I do remember a pretty funny incident with one of our kids who was, you know, there's a period where your kids are kind of in their teen world where they don't think that you know anything about anything, and that's just life, right? So you try and give them tips, and they're basically saying politely thanks, but no thanks. And so I do remember though one time when one of our kids was, I'm going to say like 20 or 21, and they had a kind of an important issue at work, and they came to talk to me and said, "What do you think I should do about it?" And I almost fell off my chair because I'm like, what? And I did like to help. You're right. But it also shocked me. So people do come around to that. You make a good point though, because so I was part of a service club for a while where you do all kinds of help in the community, whether it's, you know, at a home where you're getting stuff for people who are alcoholics and they need a place to try and recover, or it's Kids Ability, where you're going in and helping to raise money for kids, or maybe doing an event for them. And I really learned a lot in that experience where I never judged anyone who we helped ever. And because I never judged the people that we helped, I am slowly learning, which is the point of this post, things I'm still learning. I am slowly learning that if I don't judge other people when I help them, they're probably not going to judge me when I ask for help. So I feel like I'm getting better at warming up to this. I still don't think I'm very good at it. It's still something I need to learn a lot about. But I think maybe one of the answers is, like you say, when you get joy from helping other people, that may be one of the ways to help learn to ask for help yourself.
Definitely.
Okay, well, we're kind of running short on time, but I wouldn't mind doing one more. And it's kind of on a related theme, which is showing myself compassion.
Yeah.
The reason I wanted to talk about that was kind of for that Michael Herman point, which is, again, why is it that it's always easy to show compassion to other people and we're so hard on ourselves?
Yeah. I always like connect things back to like the society we grow up in and like we're currently in. It's very, again, like you have to be perfect. You have to be, you know, strong. You can't really show your emotions, and that's getting better. I would say, especially like men weren't allowed to show their emotions or how they truly felt forever. And it's just starting, like how you just spoke about, like the stigma. Society's slowly starting to be open to seeing men have feelings and emotions. And I think that's so important, because then you just, you don't show yourself compassion.
I think part of it too, and this is a bit of a struggle for me and maybe for other white guys, which is when you start to listen, you start to hear about the real struggles that are being faced by people like trans people, LGBTQ, indigenous people, people who are discriminated against for racial reasons or other reasons. And you start to feel like your first world problems aren't really important, like that you're just kind of whiny because yours is a first world problem.
Right.
And, that's another struggle that I have for showing myself compassion, because I'm like, yeah, well, grow up. There's other people with real problems. And I think you've got to find ways. Things I'm still learning. I've got to learn ways to be like, look, John, you have an authentic self too. And maybe it's different, and maybe you don't have the same level of problems, but you still have problems. Yeah. And they deserve some compassion too, to yourself. Don't just always be compassionate to others.
For sure. And it's also something that I catch myself telling people a lot to do. Like, oh, you need to love yourself more. You need to take time for yourself and show yourself that love and compassion. But I struggle to do myself. It's kind of easier said than done. You can tell other people to do it, but then they're also probably thinking you should try the same thing. So it's definitely it's a tough thing to do.
We had done another social media post that was something to the effect, it's easier to give advice to other people than to yourself. And I think that's the same with compassion. So for sure, this list is so great because they're really putting a spotlight on some of the things that are really hard for us to do. So I really I appreciate the way they did that. And I'm going to keep thinking about this post.
Yeah, me too.
Guests are giving their time, expanding our minds. Today's interview is in the category of mental wellness. We interviewed Teresa Horan a short time ago about a bereavement walking group. We noted a reality in life, that we will each see people we love pass away, and that reality hit home with me in a very real way. In an odd coincidence, I was scheduled to interview tonight's guest, Fred Fuller, about another bereavement program on November 29th, and Teresa's interview aired the same day. And on that day, my father passed away. And Fred was kind enough to reschedule and offer his heartfelt condolences. So I'm back to work again, albeit while working through things, and tonight I get to speak to Fred about an amazing program he works on as a volunteer with Hospice of Waterloo Region. So welcome, Fred.
Thanks, John. It's great to be here.
Fred Fuller is studying to become an expressive arts therapist. He attended the Create Institute in Toronto. In 2009, he graduated from NASCAD University in Halifax with a bachelor's in fine arts. He majored in interdisciplinary studies. In 2017, he led workshops at YWCA in Kitchener for women and children in low-income housing. In 2019, he designed and led workshops at One Roof in Kitchener for street-entrenched youth. He shifted his focus to Hospice Waterloo Region just before the pandemic hit in 2020. He's begun to establish himself there with the help of his supervisor, Kathy Middleton. Together, they shine a much-needed light on expressive arts therapy and how it can benefit clients experiencing bereavement and anticipatory grief. Along with the program we're going to talk about tonight, Hospice Waterloo Region also offers the Kids Heart Space group for children experiencing anticipatory grief. Now, our listeners know that Sheila and I love art. For me, it's such an important category of wellness. I get so much out of art. Fred helps with a program called Paint Through Grief, which to me sounds amazing. So Fred, could you maybe start by telling us a little bit more about your connection with Hospice of Waterloo Region?
Absolutely. First and foremost, I would probably say my parents. My dad was diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma in 1987. He was only given 3 months to live, but he fought for 20 years, which still blows my mind. After his cancer was treated, he became diabetic and later became suffering from neuropathy. He began losing limbs and was bound to a wheelchair. Eventually, his kidney also began to fail, so he began dialysis treatment. He passed away in 2010, but growing up and witnessing my dad's deteriorating illness left a strong impression on me and my younger brother and sister. It had an enormous impact on me socially and especially in school. My mom was actually a palliative care nurse from 1990 to 2021. So I was exposed to what happens in palliative care at a young age. So seeing some of the work she's done has definitely left an imprint on me. The final thing is Kathy Middleton, who is the primary therapist at Hospice Waterloo. She's also my supervisor and a graduate of the Create Institute, and she's just been a huge inspiration to me at Create and with my various placements.
That's really amazing, and it's quite a history, especially with your mom working in palliative care and your experiences with your dad. I kind of have a bullet point list of questions I want to go over, but something struck me from the bio that you gave to me, and it's just something I want to ask before we get going, which is, what is anticipatory grief?
Anticipatory grief is what a lot of people can go through prior to the death of someone that they care about.
So this is what you're experiencing before the person dies, when you know that they're going to die.
Yes, it can be a wide range of feelings and emotions, but it can be extremely stressful, and anticipatory grief is just as important to address as bereavement.
I'm assuming at a place like Hospice of Waterloo Region, the mere fact that people are there is an indicator that they're going to probably pass away in this soon, and so people around them are feeling that anticipatory grief.
Absolutely. It's something that's very common with people who are in hospice.
So just before we turn to the Paint Through Your Grief program, you're in contact with people who are grieving, both after and anticipatory. In your experience, what are some of the feelings and issues that you see them dealing with or that they communicate to you?
There can be a wide range of feelings and experiences that people can be going through. They can be going through sadness, anger, blame, guilt, anxiety, fatigue, numbness, but people can also experience relief.
We're talking about this just at a time in my life where I'm going through a lot of those emotions, and relief is one of them. Because, for example, my dad, who also was on dialysis, and I'm not going to say was in the same situation as your dad, but there were some similarities. And one of my concerns was what worse could happen down the road, what worse bad things could happen. And in the end, when he passed away, he had his full faculties. We were able to have an amazing conversation. Now I know that nothing more terrible will happen. Like, the worst of it's over. And that did come with some relief.
Absolutely. And I can say the same for my situation too, is there is some relief in knowing that there won't be any more suffering or pain.
Right. Okay, but let's now turn to this amazing program that you're helping with, which is Paint Through Your Grief. Start by maybe just giving an overview description of it.
The Paint Through Grief program is a 2-hour session for clients at Hospice Waterloo who have experienced the death of a person close to them. The workshop is about tapping into a creative experience, a way to express thoughts and emotions that may be difficult to express in words. One thing we really want to emphasize is it's not about making art. We like to explain to our participants that art is a loaded term, and that when we think of artists like Dali and Da Vinci, we're not trying to compete with them. We're just trying to create something within us that we never even knew was there to begin with. I like to tell our clients that art goes back almost 40,000 years, and it appears in cave paintings. So art has always been a tool of communication for us. And like grief, art is unique and takes many forms.
I take it that they're doing something with either paintbrushes or pencils or crayons or something. But so what you're saying, I think, is you don't have to have a picture of a beautiful tree or an orange or a bowl of fruit, but you are using instruments to create drawings.
Yeah, so we will generally use acrylic paint and watercolor. We can use canvas or watercolor paper. We just tell our clients to just relax in the moment, not overthink it, and just let the process take over. It can be an abstract piece of art. It can be an image of a item that was precious to their loved one who passed away. It can be anything they want, and it's just let the process flow.
So they come in and it's a 2-hour window, and they just start painting for that 2 hours? Do they talk during the painting, or are most people quiet?
So at the beginning, we do have a check-in. We sit in a circle and we do check-in that allows people to open up about who they are, who the person is that they lost, and just tell us a little bit about that person if they're comfortable. Usually that can create some dialogue between other participants, which is great because there's nothing more gratifying or unifying knowing that someone else is going through a similar pain in a way. So we open up just having a conversation about where we're at, and then we introduce the art making tools that they will be using.
How long would that session last before they start to do the actual art?
So that is usually about a 10, 15-minute check-in altogether, just having a conversation. But the art process, we usually take about an hour and 20 minutes, and a lot of it's done silently because it's important to just tap into what's going on with you personally. We do have some music playing quietly off to the side, and we welcome tears and we welcome emotion, and it's all valid and it all needs to come out. It's important during the art making process to also just be present with yourself, silent with yourself, to acknowledge whatever comes out.
Is there any kind of group showing after? Do people show what they did? Do people look at what they did, or does everyone kind of keep that private? How does it work?
It's up to them. Like, we will join up in the circle at the end of the art making time, and we'll do a little check-in to see how that was for people, and we invite them to share their artwork. And for the most part, I would say they do share their artwork. There is some times where it's private and they want to keep it to themselves, but we just keep it within the group because it's sensitive. We're also dealing with art, which is not a common form of expression.
It's true, because for me, I love art, but I kind of be afraid to try it. I can imagine if someone encouraged me to do it, and I did do it, no matter what it looked like, I would certainly get something out of it. So,
absolutely.
So now you're doing this program and people are attending. You can't speak for everyone, but you can speak for what you see. And what do you see and what do you hear about what people are experiencing that they find helpful?
I think the fact, like I said before, when people are in the room and they speak to each other and they sense a similarity between each other's stories, it makes them feel like they're not alone in this grief journey, which can be pretty heavy for some people. That alone makes me feel like we're doing something right. When we begin art making and we tell people that we're not looking for amazing works of art, and that we're just here to be present within ourselves and to keep the process simple, not to overthink it. If the client experiences any strong emotions or thoughts during the art making, that's okay. We encourage people, and I have seen people take a moment where they just get lost in their emotions. And to me, that's a beautiful thing because the art has done something. It's triggered something that may not have been able to come out through spoken language even. And I have seen, at the end of a session, I've seen a client paint a wonderful painting of sunflowers that made him want to begin gardening more because his wife gardened. That's task 4 of enduring connections. And it's a way to stay connected with your loved one, even though they're gone. This is what some of the things I have experienced at the paint group, and it can be pretty remarkable.
A couple things. So it reminds me, Teresa had said for the walking program, similarly, that just having other people who are experiencing what you're experiencing, whereas the rest of the world doesn't really understand, which I think is true. Right now, for example, talking to my mom and seeing my mom, I can see that she's experiencing things that really a lot of us don't understand. So if she could be with other people, that in itself is amazing. I get that point too about all of a sudden you kind of get lost. Like for me, I'll be going around, everything's normal, I'm just doing my thing, and then all of a sudden I'll kind of feel overwhelmed for a very short time. And there was no trigger that I know of. So I can imagine if you're doing art and then you have this connection, how that might help you unleash some of your kind of emotions that you're keeping wrapped up.
Absolutely.
Okay, so how do people get involved if someone in the community wants to be part of it?
If they want to get involved, they can register and email intake@hospicewaterloo.ca or call 519-743-4114 and request to be registered for the next Pain Through Grief workshop. We offer the program when we have enough participants who are interested, and we tend to work between 5 to 6 people.
In the walking bereavement program, that was one that was kind of regular for, I think, 2 years. In your program, is it repeated? Is it kind of a one-off? How many sessions might there be?
Right now, it's just a one-off. We're hoping to build it up even more, but we have had some people who have requested to come back, and we're completely open to that because grief is an ongoing journey, and it's going to take time to overcome it.
As I said earlier, to me, art is such a huge part of my life. I'm not an artist in the sense of drawing, but I can imagine if I did that exercise and I got something out of it, I would want to come back. So it's nice that people have that opportunity. Just before I turn to the last question that I ask every guest, is there anything else you'd like to say about the program or about Hospice of Waterloo Region?
I think the program is a really great step for hospice in exploring your emotions through art making. It's something that hasn't really been done at Hospice Waterloo that much. And we're just hoping to really embrace it and let people discover what is inside them. I think it's just a great addition to what is already provided there.
Oh, I forgot to ask something too. If I'm reading this right and taking the information in right, you're doing this as a volunteer and not being paid for this?
That's right, yes.
Well, I just want to say that that's incredible and amazing, and we're lucky to have people like you out there.
Oh, thank you.
Now let me turn to the question we ask every guest. We talk about different categories of wellness on our show, and each of us has categories that are important to us, but likely none of us have time to take care of all of our categories at any given time. So we do a little mini wellness check-in. Are you currently neglecting an area of wellness in your life? And if so, can you think of even one activity you could do to foster wellness in that area?
I think I could probably be a bit more active. So running, I used to run a lot as a kid, and I think just getting active and running again, that would be amazing.
Well, you may or may not know, but I'm a running nut. So anybody who says they want to go running and they're going to be, for me, I'll be a big cheerleader. So I hope you get out there and enjoy it. And
love it.
And thanks for being a volunteer. Thanks for helping people in the grieving process. And thanks for joining us on our show.
Oh, it's a pleasure. Thank you, John.
I'm Cameron, and welcome back to another installment of The Adventures of the Starving Artist. If you've been following along recently, you'll know that I've picked myself up a set of custom molded in-ear monitors, and I was really excited to try them out. But when I last updated you on what was going on there, I had basically just had a chance to look them over and try them on, not really use them with a music setting aside from listening to playback. But since then, I've had a couple of chances to try this out in a rehearsal. And while it's not on a stage proper yet being the operative word there, it's still a great situation to try using these things. It's a perfect piece of equipment for such a scenario. Let me paint the scene, or set the scene, as it were. Low-ceilinged basement. Now, I'm not a very tall person, and even I have to watch my head in a couple spots. It's low. Hard floors, bare walls, bare ceiling. It's very reverberative. Now, add a drum kit, an electric guitar, an amp that can go louder than it needs to for days, and a bass. And you have the jam setup that we had going on. So I've been playing with these guys for a few weeks now up in Ottawa, and it's nothing super serious, but we got a couple tunes on the go, and since it's rock and roll, that's always fun. Now they got me playing bass. Bass by nature is a large instrument, and I am a smaller person, so that's already fun. And in the past, I've had to play with earplugs in, which means I have to really stare at my fingers and see what's going on. I talked about this in the last segment, where I was talking about gigs I've done with Shy Harry and otherwise, where I have to play completely by eye because I can't hear anything. Now, though, that's not a problem. Instead of having to stare at the fretboard or the keyboard or whatever instrument I'm playing, I can close my eyes, noodle around, and float, going solely by my ears, which, quite frankly, are a lot stronger than my eyes are. So it's been a huge boon, like a serious level up to have this gear. And at the last jam we had, I did 2 or 3 songs without even looking once, like just kind of, they were easy, don't get me wrong. But just to see, hey, how effective are these? The sound is crystal clear, blew my mind. And I can be right next to the drum kit with the drummer going absolutely full blast, like break the snare drum forte, super loud, and barely notice. Such a game changer. The only thing is, it's weird to get used to the isolation of it, because in between songs, if someone wants to say something, they have to talk into the microphone so that their voice goes into the mix, which is going directly into my ears. Otherwise, it's like I'm wearing earplugs. I can't hear them. So I just see them mouthing stuff and I have to say, pardon? What? Huh? Sorry, what was that? So we're getting used to it. All in all, though, I'm so happy with them. It's been such a game changer. I can't wait to use them live on a stage, hopefully near you one of these days. That's all I've got for you for now. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm Cameron. This is The Starving Artist. Until next time.
We love our listeners and thanks for joining us. Please help spread the word about Let's Be Well Together podcast. Follow us and rate us on Spotify, Apple, Google, or your favorite podcast platform. Follow us on Instagram at lets.be.well.together and let your friends know about us.
Move that body like we're meant to do.
So I went to University of Waterloo and Sammy went to University of Waterloo, and we are connecting with University of Waterloo students. This is fantastic. I'm here with Ayesha Munir. Welcome, Ayesha.
Hi, nice to be here.
Thanks for joining us. And this part of the show, we hope to encourage people to make and or keep exercise as part of their everyday life, because in our view, it improves all areas of wellness. Ayesha, you said that you like going to the gym regularly, which is an awesome one. And also you mentioned that one of the things you do at the gym is skipping. And I've tried that. It's really hard. So let me just start by asking you, how often do you get to the gym?
I definitely try to go to the gym at least 4 to 5 times in a week, more so during the weekdays than the weekends.
How long are you at the gym when you go?
The full time I'm usually there, usually like an hour, 45 minutes to 2 hours, including like warm up, cool down, and the workout itself.
Oh, that's great that you do all that. People like exercising at different times of the day. What's your preferred choice?
I like to work out in the morning as early as possible, like 6:30, just because I feel like it starts my morning off. And when I work out, I want to eat healthy the rest of the day. So it just starts my day, sets me up for a good rest of the day.
What type of stuff do you do? Do you do weights? Do you do aerobics?
I usually will do cardio for 30 minutes and then I'll do weightlifting, yeah.
What kind of cardio do you do?
Jump rope. That's my go-to. Is always a good one.
So you start with a jumping rope. Wow, that is tough. So
Yeah.
I've tried jumping rope and it takes coordination, but it's also exhausting. So how long can you jump rope for?
Well, it depends. Like I usually go for 30 minutes. Obviously, I'm not jumping rope for straight 30 minutes. I take breaks. So for me, I'll do different types of jumping rope while I work out. So different tricks and stuff. So yeah, it goes for 30 minutes, obviously with rest in between.
What are some examples that maybe you can describe? I'm sure some of them are hard to describe, but what are some of them?
I'll do high knees. I'll do like 1 foot. I'll do like crisscross. I've been boxing for about 5 years. So that's where the skipping came from. And I kind of stuck with it because it was a good warm up, works all your muscles and everything. So I thought it was good to stick with it.
If someone's just starting out like me, what might I aim for initially in terms of, skipping for say 2 minutes or 4 minutes or 8 minutes?
Definitely just learning how to pace yourself with the footwork, I think is definitely the hardest thing, because once you get that down, most people like yourself, like you're a runner, most people have the endurance, but they can't get the actual footwork down. So I think when you master that, the rest just comes naturally.
I think too that because you've been doing it for a while, you may forget what it's like when you start, because when I tried it I do try and do it sometimes, but it's actually, it's hard on your legs too. If you're not used to doing it all the time, your legs have probably developed in a way that make it a lot more comfortable for you. Even with aerobics, I still need to work on some leg strength.
Yeah.
What about the weights then? So then how long would you be lifting weights for? And do you do free weights or do you do machines?
Most of my exercises are free weights. I usually go for like an hour and 10 minutes ish. Usually it depends, like if I'm hitting like back and bicep, it's usually just an hour. If it's legs, it takes me a bit longer. So like an hour, 15, 20 minutes ish. So all free weights, like I'll squat, bench, like Bulgarian squats, chest press, incline, like anything just with the free weights, so that I know like my strength is coming from myself. Cause I know sometimes the machines like help you. So I like to use free weights just to increase my strength.
I also like free weights. I've peppered you with questions about the workout. What about when you're not working out though? When you do all this stuff, how does it make you feel?
I just feel like amazing. Apart from, you're staying in shape and fit, it also just makes me feel good mentally. Like I mentioned before, it sets me up for the day, but also knowing that it's like 8 a.m. and I've already gone to the gym, I've already worked out. It just makes me feel like, oh, like I've done something today. So, I can keep going. I know that it's keeping me healthy, which makes me know that like I'm keeping my body, it's not safe, but like I'm treating it as it should be treated. And then, so it just makes me feel good.
This is probably an unfair question, but I'll ask it anyway. So when you get to my age, you've had a lot of different times in your life and a lot of different bodies, and some are in good shape and some aren't. I'm guessing you've been in pretty good health most of your life and you're still young. So you may not feel the difference between being in shape and out of shape, but are there times in your life where you haven't had a chance to work out and lift weights and do the aerobics that you can compare it to in terms of just walking around, going to get a coffee?
Yeah, definitely. I tore my ACL. I partially tore my ACL in grade 10 while I was playing basketball. And that was when COVID was starting. So I didn't miss out on any sports that were happening, but like I wasn't able to like work out at home either. Just because, my leg was recovering, and then I was like mentally, it was draining to not be able to perform how I was performing. So yeah, I know it feels like, I don't want to say terrible, but like when you know that your body can do so much more and you just can't, I can feel pretty bad. But I also know that like you also need rest, and that's also really important. So if you can't work out because you're sick or injured, just take your time to recover.
Well, we talked a little bit off tape before we started, and I found out you go to the same gym as me. So hearing you, and I'm trying to get myself motivated to get back into some weights. I think I am. I think you might see me one of these early mornings. I'll be the old guy running on the treadmill and then doing some free weights upstairs for a little while. And I really appreciate you coming on and sharing your story. And hopefully we've encouraged somebody to either get off the couch and work out or get back to a workout that they like to do.
Yeah, hopefully. I really hope so.
There's a thought. Popped up while running. What would the butler do? Here's the question. What would the butler do? I've been looking and I can't find it, but a long time ago, I was listening to, I think it was a radio interview, and somebody was talking about etiquette with a butler. And I just loved what the butler said, whose name I can't remember. And now I can't find it. And now I don't know if I was just dreaming the whole thing up. But I still love the story, so I'm sticking with it. They were asking about some specific stuff, how do you use cutlery? How do you set it along the plate? They were asking about a whole bunch of specific questions. And eventually the butler said, well, obviously in a short interview, I'm not going to be able to cover all this stuff, but let me give you kind of a general approach. And he said, if you're ever wondering what the right thing to do from an etiquette perspective is, just think about being conscientious and attentive to the people around you. Be alert. Pay attention. What are their needs right now? What would help people right now? And if you can approach life that way and not be oblivious, but be the opposite, be attentive to the needs of the people around you, you'll usually figure out the right thing to do, and it'll usually fit in from an etiquette perspective. And I just love that because, as we've said before, when Sheila and I did one of the flip sides, one thing that drives me crazy is oblivious people. People who have no idea what's going on around them, or they say something that's completely inappropriate based on the context. And to the other side of the coin, I just love it when people are conscientious of what's going on around them. And for example, in terms of a conversation, there's many times where I'll come home and Sheila will ask, how did something go? How was your meeting with so-and-so? How was the party? And I'll say, I met this person and I just really enjoyed talking to them because we were part of a group and we were chatting, and I could tell, like they, like me, they were really listening to the people around them, and they were engaging on the topics of the people around them. And it was just a really fascinating discussion. Or I might come home and say, oh, it was terrible because I was talking to someone and all they could talk about was themselves. They only could talk about their own issues. They completely ignored the things that other people were talking about. They had some point they wanted to make or something they wanted to emphasize, and that's all they talked about. And it was just kind of pointless. Now, a lot of times when I'm in a situation, and whether it's a party, whether it's a business meeting, wherever it is, I don't know if I know the actual etiquette. I don't know if it's the correct thing to do under whatever rules there are for etiquette. But I always feel comfortable that if I'm paying attention to what's going on around me and I try and be courteous and conscientious of other people's needs and where they're at, it feels good. So I often ask myself, what would the butler do? It's me.
Yeah. Just let me say, flip side of the coin.
Hey, John. I was just thinking that we're really lucky in our relationship that we both are givers and takers, and that we appreciate giving each other things and enjoy the outcome of it and enjoy that just for its own merit.
We realized it kind of later into our marriage. Like, it was obviously in the back of our subconscious and all that, but we eventually realized that both of us are the kind of people that really like seeing the other person enjoy things.
Yeah.
So
like making the other one happy. So we like giving in order to see the other person happy. And we both are takers too. Like, we appreciate the other one giving us things to make us happy, and then we do it vice versa.
Yeah.
Makes for a good relationship.
And we're also lucky because we're doing some sessions right now where we're doing multiple flip sides, and we have not had a fight yet. I think this is the first.
Knock on wood, we haven't done that many yet.
All right. Well, why are we talking about this? Why are we talking about in a relationship? It's nice and it works out well if both parts of the relationship enjoy seeing the other person enjoy stuff and like doing stuff for that reason. Mm-hmm. So why are we talking about that?
Well, because we heard of someone who's in a relationship and the relationship actually broke up because they were takers and they just took, and the other person didn't feel like they were actually in a relationship.
Yeah. So what we heard from the person who said, it's enough, was that the other person was just take. And eventually I can totally see how that would be, because I assume what that means is that the other person's always thinking of their own needs, thinking about themselves, doing their own thing.
Mm-hmm.
If you're available, great, but I'm doing my thing. Mm-hmm. And, never taking the time to say, how can I do something for you? Or, pulling that little surprise that makes you smile when you come home from work.
Yeah, and it's not even thinking about it. It would be really nice if it was just natural, that it just happened all the time, That's
ideal.
Yeah, that that you just naturally give and take and enjoy each other's time.
But, it's just such a disaster when you run into people who are just take. And I know you guys did an earlier session about what was it on?
The giver syndrome.
The giver syndrome, right? That was kind of a different spin on it, which is some people only ever give.
Yes.
And you've got to learn to take as well.
Exactly, because that is a problem with me. I am a giver. Like, I do really like giving and helping people, but I also take, especially in a relationship. I feel like we have a good give and take.
Yeah, I guess I'm going to be corny though and say that for sure, when it comes to the household, making amazing food and getting people things and doing amazing birthday parties for people, you're the one doing all that stuff. And, and we don't seem to reciprocate enough. So that is something that the rest of us in the household should work on.
Yeah. Well, it was funny that one time when Jeremy was like, what do you want for your birthday? And I was like, I'd really like a birthday cake. Like, I can't make myself or, buy my own birthday cake. And he actually made it from scratch, like made me a birthday cake from scratch, which I've never done in my whole life, ever. Made a birthday cake from scratch. I should really try it, but I was really impressed.
Oh, you mean like not from a box?
Not from a box.
Wow.
Like, I've always just bought a box and then, made the dressing or made the icing and maybe put some filling in it or, kind of dressed it up. But I've never done it from scratch. And I was like, whoa. And
I remember another one really when impressive. We didn't connect. So like, it's coming up to your birthday and we knew that we were going to have dinner together and someone should get Sheila cake and we didn't connect. And we ended up with either 2 or 3 ice cream cakes from Dairy Queen because Jeremy got one, Alex got one, and I might have got one too. It's just, that's how lame we are. We didn't even, but meanwhile, if Sheila was arranging it, everybody would know exactly what everybody's doing.
Yeah, that's true. But it was funny.
Yeah. I mean, the bottom line, and this one isn't that complicated. Don't be a taker. I don't like to be preachy, but this is what I'm going to be preachy about is think about whether you are the kind of person who's always focused on yourself. Mm-hmm. Look up the word solipsistic.
Okay, I will.
That's a different spin on it. Yeah. And I think if you take the time, you really will find that there's a lot of joy in helping other people. There's a lot of joy in making other people happy.
Oh, for sure.
But mostly this is another example for me of just to say that, we've been married a long time and our relationship has gone through some rough spots and some mostly great spots. And part of it's lucky. And part of the lucky part is that both of us just have that personality. And so that's a good thing.
Well, and I think we've developed our relationship so that we now know each other well enough to know when we need it and, and also communicate.
That's a good point.
If you feel like you're not giving enough or not taking enough, then communicate it because the other person may not know.
Yeah, that's true. So that's one of the other issues with this couple is the person who felt like the other was a taker all those years probably never communicated that.
No, just kept it in until it boiled over and he couldn't or she couldn't take it anymore, and that's not good.
And I've always felt like if there's something going on, it might take a couple months for me to build up the courage to tell you about it, but I will tell you about it because to me, it's only fair that you tell somebody something first.
Yeah. Before
you make a decision on assuming they're not changing automatically. Why aren't they changing?
Yeah.
Well,
they don't know.
Give them a chance.
Yeah.
And then if they say pound sand, then at least you tried.
Yeah.
Please remember that we're not providing advice. We hope to inspire you to work towards balance, and we urge you to consult with qualified people if you need advice. The people on the show are speaking in their personal capacities. Their views expressed are their own, and don't represent the views or opinions of their outside contacts, their employers, or anyone else. We try to get things right, but we can't guarantee everything we say is correct, or that the things we talk about will work for you. Let's be well together, and let's be sure to do that in a safe way.
And it's sign-off time. Happy New Year, everyone, and welcome back, Sammy and John.
Hello.
And
Happy
all
New
our
Year.
guests. Yeah. So this week was New Year's, obviously, and we had a nice New Year's Eve. It was quiet, but it was a nice, fun party and quite a lovely week because we had that snowstorm before Christmas, and then it went to, plus 10 and 15. I don't know, but it was so warm and lovely outside. It was a nice, relaxing family get-together week that I had. And what about you, John?
I love the way the holidays fell this year for me because we get our holiday days. So, for example, after Christmas being on a Sunday, right? Mm-hmm. We ended up getting Monday and Tuesday off.
Yeah.
And now New Year's being on a Saturday, we get Monday off. So I just feel like I've had a really great break. Mm-hmm. The biggest thing for me is I'm super excited because I haven't gone to the gym for a long time. I wasn't going during COVID. I kept my membership, kept supporting, but I wasn't going in very much. Mm. And the strange thing is, so many things for me, I don't know why, I start to lose my confidence. Oh no, I'm going to have to go back to the gym. How's it going to feel? Mm-hmm. What's going to happen? So the first thing for me was to get on the treadmill. And the first day I went on, it was the day before Christmas, and it was a struggle. I forgot that you just have to get used to it. But it's super great because I've gone 2 or 3 times since, and now I'm just cruising on the treadmill. It feels good. Mm-hmm. I'm feeling really energized when I leave. And I've talked to some guests who've talked me into going early morning. So I'm going to try and go to the gym 3-4 times before work in a week.
Good for you.
And try and keep that up regularly. And I'm pretty excited about it. How about you, Sammy?
Yeah, that sounds good. I also need to get back to the gym for sure. I got some new gym shoes for Christmas. So I put that on my list being like, I'm going to get the new shoes and then I'm going to go back to the gym.
Right.
So I'm preparing myself for it to be very, very busy though, because everybody's there after New Year's. Other than that, I have also been very busy with a bunch of, family stuff over the holidays. So I feel like I haven't fully had that relaxing time.
Oh, okay.
But I still had a really great holiday and everything. So that was awesome. And something I'm going to start doing this week is journaling.
I've always really wanted to get into journaling, and something I got for Christmas was Rupi Kaur's new book, and she's a poet, and I've read all of her books, but she came out with this book where it's basically gives you prompts for journaling. So it will kind of give you like little questions to think about or like a photo to look at, and then it will be like, now time yourself for 10 minutes, and it gives you kind of the journal, and then you start writing. So I'm really excited to try that. It's all about like healing and going through anything that's going through your head. So yeah, I'm really excited for that.
I've heard several people tell me how much they love that and what a difference it's made in their life, including some of the people we interviewed. Even if you can just take that time, it's really hard. I think it's going to be really hard for you to be able to keep doing it. But I have my fingers crossed, because I think if you do, you're just going to find it's going to change things in a lot.
Yeah, it sounds really exciting. And John got a nice Christmas gift. Did you want to tell everyone?
What did I get?
You got a new microphone and headset.
Yes.
So now we can have 3 people here.
That's right.
So now we can have, so that's really nice, because usually when there's more than 2 of us, we have to kind of share a mic and go in and out. So we're getting in more advanced every day here at the podcast.
Someday we have to put a little YouTube out to show how informal this whole setup is in our basement. But it works pretty well, so I'm pretty happy.
Yeah. So I hope everyone has had a great New Year's, and I hope you have a great new year, 2023.
Yes, it's so exciting, starting fresh. We all get a chance to get a whole bunch of stuff done. And hope you like the show, and stay tuned. We'll see you again next week.
See ya.
That is it for today's show. Please try and make wellness a priority.
You deserve it.
If you feel the need to talk to someone or ask for help, please do that.
Accept yourself for the person you are.
So long.
Adieu.
Auf Wiedersehen.
Goodbye.